going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a quick 1-month review of 2021 14-inch MacBook Pro. This is the base $2,000 model. And I'll go over my first month with it, what I use it for, who it may not be for, who it may be for, kind of go over a little bit of the specs, not much, because I don't think you can watch any of the other general popular YouTube channels out there for the specs on it, so I'm not going to review all that for you. So I generally use this as a second computer. I have, I forget if it's a 12 or 16 core desktop, one of Intel's 10th series, I think, maybe 11th. I don't know. It's not the 12th. It's not the new one. So I don't use this all that often for any beefy stuff. I do some photo and video editing on it, mainly photo stuff, little stuff like maybe 20 to 30 files from my Canon R6. A little bit of photo, a little bit of video editing, and just general use around the house. So I'll kind of go over the good, the bad, and why this is probably overkill for me, and I'll probably end up getting rid of it. So first things, ports are back, so it is a little bit chunkier than previous. This is my wife's MacBook Pro. Let's see if it focuses on that. She has the 2016 model with the very unreliable keyboards, but it is a beefier system than that. So basically the whole top part of the display is a little bit, is how much larger it is. It's not noticeable. I came from a 15-inch ThinkPad, so I think it's actually a perfect size. So it's a little bit bigger. You have ports back, you have HDMI, you have one USB Type-C, they call it Thunderbolt. You have an SD card slot, and other side, MagSafe's back. Very strong MagSafe, I'll mention that. Thunderbolt, and then headphone jack. So you have tons of ports, which is a good feature. The SD card's the only one I use on a regular basis. I use the headphone one from time to time, now that I mention it, but the SD card reader is great. The only negative is it doesn't go all the way into the laptop like my ThinkPad, so it would be easy to break it off. It's more like a half press, and it goes into there. So you do have all your ports back. So if you need that, that's a plus. The SD card's really the only one I cared about. I'll never use HDMI. It is older HDMI, so I believe it's 2.0, not 2.1. You'll have to look up and make sure of that. But so you do have your ports back, which is nice. The Apple logo on the back is actually much larger, if you can see that. And you have these nice big feet on the bottom. And you have MacBook Pro engraving, which I think is pretty nice. This is definitely a more premium laptop. That's why you're paying $2,000. But my wife's 13-inch was actually, I forget what she paid for this. It's not the base model. I think she paid $17.99 for it. So you do get a little bit beefier computer for that. So I think it's 8 CPU cores, 8 GPU cores. I don't know. I know it has the 8 CPU, I believe. So it has that, 512 gigabyte SSD, really fast SSD, and 16 gigabytes of memory. And why I think 16 gigabytes may not be enough if this is your primary computer, because that 16 gigabytes is shared among everything. So generally, on a standard computer, like my ThinkPad, it had a Quattro T100 in it, which had the memory built into the video card. And then it also had regular dedicated system memory, which the CPU used. So this memory is for everything. It's one baked on big chip. So 16 gigabytes, if you're doing a lot of heavy photo and video editing, I would jump up and at least get 32. That would be my recommendation there. Display. That's probably the big thing to talk about. The display is absolutely gorgeous. Let's shut this down here a little bit. You don't want to see my messages, but the display is absolutely gorgeous. Very bright. It is not what 1,000 or 1,600 nits that they say it is. It's 500 nits. It's a 500 nit display. The reason why it can get to 1,000 or 1,600 is if it's doing HDR content, which boosts the brightness. So in general, 99% of your use, you got a 500 nit display. 120 hertz. This is a mini LED. 120 hertz refresh rate. It is a gorgeous panel. Easily the best panel that I have, besides my iPad Pro, which is also actually a pretty good actual display, but I believe it's mini LED. It's 120 hertz refresh rate. I honestly don't notice 120 hertz refresh rate all that much, and that's probably because a lot of the apps aren't optimized for it yet. Safari's not, Chrome's not. A lot of them just aren't caught up yet. But it's a really, really nice display. Very color accurate, lots of contrast, lots of punch to it. If you are doing photo and video editing as your primary job, this or the 16-inch is what I would get, especially if you don't have another display, or even if you do have another display. If you don't have a desktop, I think this is the way to go, even over the Windows laptops, which have good displays. The XPS 15 has a good one. The ThinkPad, the P1 and the X1, if you get the right actual display, they have pretty good displays, but this thing's very nice, very fluid. It does have the notch at the top, which personally doesn't really bother me all that much. The notch is just something that I've got used to, even on my iPhone, which I don't even know where my iPhone's at. You get used to the notch, you don't even notice it. When it goes into like full display mode, when it actually opens up everything, the notch disappears. If you have anything open to the maximum strength. A few minor gripes about the display. I think the scaling isn't great. I feel like I could probably scale a little bit better on a Windows machine. So currently I have it as, I think it's more space. Let's see. I have a bunch of stuff open, which I probably shouldn't. I currently have it at more space, where basically you get a ton of real estate on here, but the text is a little bit small, so I wish there was a little bit more than the 4 or 5 options they had for screen resolution and scaling. But besides that, it's a very, very good display. That's out of the way, done. Best display I've ever seen on a laptop. My ThinkPad had a decent display on it, and this thing just blows it out of the water. The colors are really, really good on it. As far as performance, it is very snappy. So generally when you open something, it opens pretty quick. Open Adobe Premiere, it does open pretty quick. Not quite as quick as my desktop, but it is probably 3 or 4 times as fast as my actual ThinkPad was. So it's just a really, really quick machine, especially at opening stuff and just running stuff in general. And I have no idea if I had downloaded the even regular ones, apps, Intel apps, the Rosetta apps, no clue, but they are very, very fast. So this is the fastest just day-to-day use laptop I've ever had, probably by 2 or 3 margins at least. My ThinkPad was pretty powerful, but this just blows it out of the water. Battery life, 11 to 17 hours. I think you could get fairly easily. I'm not a heavy user, so I think I'm currently right at almost 10 already, and I got 49% left. I usually have the screen down pretty bright, just because I don't think bright lights are great for your eyes, so I usually do that. But overall, easily 10 hours. If you're doing if you do just a video editing on it 24/7, especially if you're using like Adobe products, those tend to just drain your battery. You may not get that much, but if you're using it as general day-to-day, I've done some photo editing on it a couple times, and it's still lasts that 10 hours minimum. I could probably get 15 or 16 out of it pretty easily, so that's nice. What else? It doesn't get hot. It's pretty cool right now. It's about 55 degrees in our area, so I haven't been able to test it because I generally carried my other computer outside fairly often, so we'll see how it does there. But it does never gets hot, where my ThinkPad did get a little bit toasty at times. Cooling on this is great. You never hear the fans. I have edited C-Log on here before, which is a pretty heavy workload, and I never heard the fans kick up. I think that's how Mac or Apple wants it. Generally, they're more conservative on the side of things of that, but my ThinkPad would randomly just make the most loudest noise you could ever think of. This thing is very silent, very quiet, and I really like it for that. You don't have to worry about, especially if you're in a quiet place, the fans ramping up and causing any disturbance. The big feet, I think, on the bottom help with that. It does have a much larger feet than the older laptops do. Anything else? Keyboard and trackpad. So trackpad is great. We all know that MacBook trackpads are the best out there. Apple ones altogether compared to Windows. They're just way more fluid, more advanced, more tactile. They're great to use. So trackpad's great. Keyboard, it's not as good as my ThinkPad, the ThinkPad that I had before, but it's up there. It's a very good keyboard. You do not have the touch bar. I didn't care if there's a touch bar or not. I could see if this was your main workhorse, wanting to not have the touch bar because it was a little laggy, a little buggy. At least on my wife's computer, it is a little bit buggy there. So I like the keyboard. It doesn't have as much travel or as tactile feel as the ThinkPad does. It's not anywhere near a mechanical keyboard. I have a what keyboard is this? I think it's the Tofu 65. Ooh, I almost dropped it. And it has Zilio switches in it. It's not even close to a mechanical keyboard. It's good. Good keyboard, not close to a mechanical keyboard. Anything else? That's really it. I'm really happy with it. Is it for me? No, it's overkill for me. So I'm probably going to, sadly, probably either get an M1 MacBook Air, or I'm even thinking about getting like a Lenovo, like an X1 Yoga. You can get those in the outlet from Lenovo for between $600 and $1,000. They're pretty good machines. And I kind of miss having a touchscreen and being able to use a computer as a tablet also, even though I have an iPad that's mainly for our little one. So it's probably overkill for me. If it's your main computer, I think this would be the way to go over an Intel based system. I think when it comes to performance, battery life, quietness, and if you're worried about breaking it, you can get yearly Apple Care. That's what I got. It's $100 a year, and basically you can 2 accidental damages. You're covered for anything that may happen to it. I think it's even liquid damage. Don't quote me on that. I would check to make sure, but this is what I would recommend. Or the 16-inch. If you don't have a desktop and a nice monitor, I'd probably get the 16-inch. I have a fairly, not even a decent, but I have a okay 4K 32-inch panel and a really nice desktop, so I didn't need this 16-inch. I was actually looking to downgrade to a smaller system, but if it's your only system, I would probably push you to the 16-inch because it's not that much bigger, at least in my eyes. So that's it. It's an excellent machine, easily the best looking, the most premium laptop I've ever owned. ThinkPads are very rugged, but they are very dated in their design. So this thing feels premium, it feels nice, fastest laptop I've ever used. So that's it. That is my 1 month review. It's an excellent system for almost everybody out there. Most people can get by with just the M1 Air or the M1 Pro 13-inch, but if you want that extra real estate, you have to jump up to get this. So that's it. Comments, questions, leave them below. I'll get back to you. I'm not generally an Apple user. I do like the iPhone more than anything, but for a desktop, I probably will never go away from a regular DIY system. I love building stuff, so building a desktop every 4 to 5 years and just being able to swap parts out is something I like. So that's it. Have a good rest of the day, weekend, whatever it is out there, and I'll see you guys next time.